Picture this. Two sheriff's cruisers roaring up my dusty driveway, sirens blaring like it's a scene from a cop show, and there's Diane Foster, the HOA president, standing at my gate, smirking like she's just checkmated me, pointing the deputies toward my ranch house as if I'm some outlaw squatting on her turf. I step out onto the porch, heart thumping, and flash my federal badge. 30 years as a U.S. Marshal. Enough clout to make the young deputy's jaw drop. Watching Diane's smug grin crumble as the cuffs snap on her for trespassing and lying to the law. Let me take you back to how a retired lawman's quiet life on a Texas ranch turned into a high-stakes showdown with a power-hungry neighbor hell-bent on stealing my land. I'm Tom Harlan, a former U.S. Marshal who traded my badge for a 60-acre ranch in Redstone Hollow, Texas, a year ago, looking for peace after decades of chasing bad guys. This place is my haven. Open fields, a creaky barn, a few horses grazing under the big sky. Zoned agricultural since the 1920s, long before the fancy Crestwood Heights subdivision sprouted up a mile down the road. I'm a simple guy, happy mending fences, feeding my goats, maybe sipping whiskey on the porch at sunset. But I didn't count on Diane Foster, the new HOA president who thought her clipboard gave her dominion over my slice of freedom. She lived in a gaudy house with plastic swans on the lawn and a fountain that played Amazing Grace every hour. Yet somehow, my ranch was a problem. It started with a letter, all official-looking with a tacky eagle logo, claiming my ranch was under Crestwood's extended authority because of a supposed 1976 community pact and some rezoning I'd never heard of. It listed violations. My split-rail fence was non-compliant. My barn was an aesthetic blight. My goats were illegal livestock. I laughed it off, figured it was a mix-up, and strolled to Diane's place, letter in hand, trying to sort it out. "Miss Foster," I said, keeping it friendly, "my land's not in your HOA. It's agricultural, been that way for a century." She gave me a look like I'd spit in her coffee, voice sharp. "Every property here answers to us, Mr. Harlan. We uphold standards." I showed her my deed, clear as day, but she brushed it off. "We'll handle this," and shut the door in my face. That's when I knew Diane wasn't just mistaken. She was on a mission, and I was her target. The harassment kicked into gear. Diane started prowling my fence line, snapping photos with a telephoto lens, jotting notes like she was building a case. Violation notices flooded my mailbox. Too many vehicles, my pickup and tractor. Unkempt grounds, my pasture. Disruptive noise, my rooster crowing. One day, I caught her on my land, measuring my goat pen with a tape measure bold as brass. "You're trespassing," I said, pointing to the private property sign she'd ignored. She puffed up. "I'm conducting HOA inspections." I stepped closer, voice steady. "Not on my ranch or not. County code's 50 feet for livestock. I'm 500 past that. Get out." She huffed, "I'll take this to the board," and stomped off, but I could see the wheels turning. She wasn't stopping. A month later, she showed up with a cease and desist order, some half-baked template she'd printed off the internet, demanding I vacate my own land. "Diane," I said, holding my ground, "this is nonsense, and you're trespassing again." She planted her feet. "I'm not leaving until you obey." Then she pulled out her phone, dialed 911, and with crocodile tears, reported a hostile squatter on HOA land, painting me as a threat. That call brought the deputies to my gate, setting up the moment that turned everything upside down. There they were, the young deputy looking like he'd rather be anywhere else, and the senior one, a guy I'd worked with on fugitive hunts, squinting at Diane like he smelled a rat. I flipped open my badge. "Tom Harlan, U.S. Marshal, retired. This is my land. Here's the deed, survey maps, zoning records." The young deputy's eyes widened. "Sir, we were told you're a squatter." I pointed at Diane. "She's been trespassing for months, sending fake fines, now this." "Check her story." The senior deputy turned to her. "Ma'am, you climbed a lock gate?" Diane stammered. "I have HOA rights." He shut her down. "Not here, you don't. Filing a false report's a misdemeanor, and trespassing's a crime." Her face went from red to gray, words failing as they cuffed her, reading her rights while she shrieked. "I'm the president. I know people. The senior deputy chuckled. Yeah, and Harlan knows more. They loaded her into the cruiser, her protests fading, and I stood there, badge heavy in my hand, feeling the first real breath of relief in weeks, but knowing this was far from over. The news hit Crestwood like a tornado. By sundown, everyone knew Diane got arrested trying to evict a retired marshal. The HOA meeting a week later was standing room only, folks packed in, murmuring as I walked up, invited to talk about property law. Diane, out on bail, slunk in the back, eyes burning, but her usual swagger was gone. I laid out the facts, my deed, the zoning, her endless violations, then hit them with the kicker. I dug into HOA files and found a plan, dated 5 months ago, to annex my ranch for a community riding complex. Diane's been harassing me to force a sale. The crowd gasped. Sarah Gomez, a board member, snatched the file. She kept this secret. Neighbors exploded, some angry, some cheering. Diane tried to save face. I was boosting property values. That ranch is a dump, but the room turned on her. A guy in the back yelled, "You wanted his land for your scam." Another shouted, "Thief." Sarah called a vote. Unanimous, Diane was ousted, banned from HOA leadership. She bolted, face like a thundercloud, vowing lawsuits, but the cheers drowned her out. The trial 6 months later sealed her fate. Diane faced charges: criminal trespassing, false reporting, harassment, attempted fraud. I testified, showing her letters, photos of her sneaking around, the fake order, the land grab plan. The DA didn't hold back. "You bullied a law-abiding citizen, lied to police, and schemed to steal his property for personal gain." Her lawyer mumbled about civic duty, but the judge wasn't buying. "Ms. Reese, you turned a community role into a criminal enterprise. 12 months probation, 150 hours community service, $10,000 in fines." She gasped, "10,000. The judge snapped, "You tried to rob a man's home." As she was escorted out, Diane's eyes met mine. Defeated, hollow, a far cry from the queen who'd terrorized Crestwood. I walked out, the courthouse air lighter, my ranch secure. Crestwood's different now. The HOA's led by folks like Sarah, who care about neighbors, not power. No more fines for goats or barns, just potlucks and kids on bikes. My ranch is my own, horses kicking up dust, the old barn creaking in the wind. Neighbors drop by, swap stories, ask about my martial days, and I'm proud, not just for saving my land, but for proving nobody's above the law, not even an HOA dictator. But last week, a new board member was seen sketching my fence line, muttering about community projects. Is another Diane lurking? Or am I just on edge? What do y'all think? Was she a villain? Or just drunk on her own hype? Share your HOA battles. Tell me how you'd stand your ground. Like, share, let's keep our homes free.